comes to the celebrities of the world, most people gauge them on two different things. What they are known for in regards to movies, TV shows that they've been in or directed, sports teams they're on, music they've made, etc. Oh, and how much money they're worth, because you can usually tell just how important a celebrity is based on their net worth, and there are indeed a lot of rich celebrities out there. But what may surprise you though is who is currently out on top in terms of value. So allow us to show you the 6 richest celebrities in the world. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Note, for our celebrity title, we're looking at people who do things in an entertainment industry kind of way or something close to it. So therefore people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk won't be on the list despite them having kind of a celebrity status. Number 6, Kim Kardashian, $1.6 billion. It'd honestly be a shocker if this particular lady wasn't on the list given all that she does. Kim Kardashian is unfathomably successful, and while many people may not like her rise to fame, it certainly did pay well. Kim's 2 most valuable assets are KKW Beauty, a direct-to-consumer beauty product line, and Skims, a shapewear company. KKW Beauty generates north of $100 million per year in revenue. Last year, she sold a 20% stake in KKW to Coty, the same company that bought 51% of half-sister Kylie Jenner's Kylie Cosmetics company in 2020. KKW Beauty was most recently valued at $700 million. Kim owns 72% of the company, giving her a pre-tax $500 million stake. Skims was launched in 2019. In April 2021, a New York Times article reported that Skims had recently raised $154 million at a $1.6 billion valuation. Kim is believed to own 50 to 60% of the brand, giving her a pre-tax stake worth of $800 to $960 million. So when you add those two up, you're at right about $1.6 billion, and she is no doubt proud of that. Number 5, Jamie Gertz, $3 billion. Children of the 1980s know Jamie Gertz thanks to roles in movies like The Lost Boys and Less Than Zero, and then the television show Square Pegs. More recently, Jamie has had co-starring roles in sitcoms like Still Standing and The Neighbors. So, how is Jamie Gertz a multi-billionaire? Well, she married very, very well. In 1989, Jamie married an upstart financier named Anthony Ressler. After graduating from Georgetown University, Tony went to work at Michael Milken's now infamous investment bank, Drexel Burnham Lambert. Drexel pioneered the art of raising gobs of money for corporate raiders who would then go out and buy companies with nothing down and lots of debt. By 1990, Tony co-founded Apollo Global Management. He and Jamie married the year before. In 1997, Tony co-founded Ares Management. Today, the company manages more than $130 billion in assets. In 2015, Jamie and Tony bought a majority stake in the NBA's Atlanta Hawks for an estimated $800 million. Today, the Hawks are worth $1.5 billion. They originally wanted to buy the Dodgers, but they were outbid. They do own a minority stake in the Milwaukee Brewers and around $100 million worth of known real estate. So yeah, she's done pretty well for herself all told, wouldn't you say? Number 4, Oprah Winfrey, $3.5 billion. You get a billion, and you get a billion, and you get... Oh, wait, she's not giving out billions, she is just worth them? Oh, darn. Anyway, when Oprah was doing her legendary show, she was worth millions in no time flat. But after meeting and then marrying an agent named Jeffrey Jacobs, she learned that to go and get really rich, you need to go and be an owner. Oprah and Jeffrey co-founded Harpo Productions. She owns 90%, he owns 10%, and they proceeded to produce the Oprah Winfrey Show on their own dime. They then sold the show market by market. Next, Oprah and Jeffrey negotiated a much larger overall deal with ABC that included movie productions, a magazine, books, and most importantly, the right to launch other TV shows under her production umbrella. All production for these shows would take place at her 3.5-acre Harpo campus. Oprah and Jeffrey went as far as to negotiate an ownership stake in her distributor, King World Productions. Thanks to this deal, Oprah would earn money off of every show King World produced, including Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. In 1999, CBS bought King World for $2.5 billion in stock. When the acquisition was over, Oprah owned 1% of all of CBS. She also ended up owning a significant chunk of Disney stock through a deal she made with ABC in the mid-1990s. At her peak, when the Oprah Winfrey Show was airing, Oprah personally earned around $300 million per year from her media empire. Oprah has been a board member of Weight Watchers since 2015, and when she joined the company, she was awarded $43.5 million worth of equity. That stake has grown to be worth more than $400 million at various points in recent history. There is a reason that she's a queen of business, and she is still respected to this day, and is worth every bit of her net worth. Number 3, Kanye West, $6.6 billion. Now, for the record, we know that this one will be a bit controversial due to the fact that certain other places like Forbes put Kanye West at about $1.6 billion. But there are some who truly feel he's worth more, and for various reasons, including Kanye owns $100 million worth of real estate. He earns $100 to $200 million per year from all sources. His music catalog is worth $110 million. He owns 100% of the Yeezy apparel line. Yeezy generates $1.5 billion in revenue in 2020 and is worth $3 to $5 billion as a brand. Again, Kanye is 100% equity owner. Yeezy's partnership with The Gap is worth an estimated $1 billion. So when you put all of that together and realize that his owning 100% of the equity means that should he ever decide to sell it, he would make serious bank. Not that he intends to do that anytime soon. It should also be noted his explosion of wealth is a more recent thing thanks to his Yeezy line. But in a way, that makes it all the more impressive that he got the brand to be that big and grow so fast. Number 2, Steven Spielberg, $7.5 billion. It might be surprising to some of you that a director in the number 2 spot, especially since in more recent times, Spielberg films haven't been as impactful or mind-blowing as they were in decades past. But here's the thing, even with that being true to an extent, Spielberg-produced movies have generated more than $14 billion at the global box office. Plus, Steven has traded salary for points on a number of his box office smashes. For example, Spielberg earned $250 million off of 1993's Jurassic Park, followed by $150 million from the sequel and $75 million from the third installment, for a total of $475 million from just 3 movies. But it's not just the movies he cashed in on. He did an extremely lucrative deal with Universal theme parks. In the 1990s, Steven agreed to a deal that gave Universal, the studio behind Jurassic Park, the first right to make the theme park rides based on his movie. In exchange, Steven would be entitled to 2% of all gross ticket sales at Universal theme parks around the world, annually and in perpetuity. Universal eventually opened multiple theme parks around the world. Each park owed 2% of its gross ticket sales to Mr. Spielberg. Considering that the parks are still going strong, he is still raking in the dough. Also, for decades, Steven owned a not insignificant equity in Star Wars thanks to a brilliant deal that he struck with his good buddy George Lucas back in the early 1970s. So yeah, Steven isn't just brilliant behind the camera, he's brilliant in the business room as well. Oh, and speaking of that good friend of his, number 1, George Lucas, $10 billion. Yes, clearly the force and wealth is strong in this one. George Lucas is the richest celebrity in the world with a net worth of $10 billion, which many of you might find surprising because in truth, he's mainly known for Star Wars. But that's the thing, he's rich because of how he's connected to Star Wars. Mainly, he owns it. All of it. We'll explain. George Lucas owning 100% of Star Wars can be traced to what is by far the most brilliant business decision in Hollywood history. The long story short is that back in 1973, George agreed to accept a lower salary on the first Star Wars, which the studio was convinced would tank in exchange for 2 requests. Number 1, he would own all of the merchandising rights. Number 2, he would own the full intellectual property of the franchise after the first film. Between sequels, DVDs, and merchandise, Star Wars would eventually generate more than $12 billion globally, and all the profits went to George. But it gets better. In 2012, George sold the Star Wars franchise to Disney for $4 billion in cash and stock. Specifically, he received 37 million shares of Disney and $2.15 billion in cash. On the day the transaction closed, the 37 million shares were worth $1.85 billion. Disney stock has roughly quadrupled since 2012, in part due to Disney doing the sequel series, The Mandalorian, and more. George never sold a single share. Today, those 37 million shares are worth $7 billion. And to be clear, there are other aspects to him being rich, but this is the main one, and you can see why George Lucas might just be one of the smartest men to ever live. He bet on himself, and that made him incredibly rich. So, what do you think? What do you think of this look at the celebrities who are worth the biggest bucks? Were you surprised by some of the people on this list and their values? Which ones were the most surprising to you? What celebrity did you expect to be on this list but wasn't? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you next time on the channel.